I see our next speaker here in the chat. Let's see if we can bring him on. Vivos Therapeutics is the company. VVOS is the ticker. Kirk Huntsman is the co-founder, chairman, and the CEO. And there he is. How are we doing today, sir?
Good, Spencer. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for asking. Let me get your slides up here. I see them.
All right.
There they are. And all right. Very excited to hear about Vivos. Tell us all about it.
All right. Thank you very much. Great to be back at Benzinga and appreciate the opportunity. So Vivos is a medical device company in the med tech space. We have a therapy as well as a diagnostic product, which we'll talk about here. We address the worldwide concerns with over 1 billion people that have obstructive sleep apnea. Between 80 and 90% of those people who have this condition remain undiagnosed and untreated. So there's a huge greenfield opportunity for anybody that comes along with something that actually works. And that's what Vivos is bringing to the market. So some of you may or may not realize this, but obstructive sleep apnea has numerous comorbidities, which means that it exists alongside many different types of chronic illnesses, things such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, fibromyalgia. I mean, we can go down the list. We've identified a few of them on the screen here, but this just barely scratches the surface of the things that are known to be linked to sleep apnea, which makes these conditions either worse or causes them in the first place to some degree. And so if that's the case, if there's so many people walking around with this, why? Why are so many people suffering from OSA, and why are so few receiving treatment? We think there are two main barriers, two main issues that are at play here. The first is that doctors really don't know who has it. So there's an issue of diagnosis. Limited access and the cost of diagnosis have been barriers here. And then the second issue is that modern medicine hasn't been able to fix it. The best that we've been able to do is manage it. And the treatment options are unappealing, costly, and often very ineffective. So Vivos Therapeutics is bringing to market two technologies, one diagnostic and one therapeutic. On the diagnostic front, in the upper right-hand corner, you see what we call our Vivos Score device, which we'll talk about more in a minute here. But the Vivos Score device relies on a technology developed at Harvard. It's called cardiopulmonary coupling. We have the exclusive license from Sleep Image, which is another company here in Colorado that's bringing this technology to market. But we have the exclusive license for North America, Canada, and the United States to bring this product to market in the dental space. And we also have the ability to market into the medical space as well. But it's exclusive. Our license is exclusive to the 200,000 dental offices across North America. The second technology that we have is therapeutic, and this is the original groundbreaking technology that we have. We own all of the patents and rights to this technology. It was initially developed by Dr. Dave Singh, who was the founder of this company and also our chief medical officer. If you'll go ahead and skip that, we'll go to the next one. So the Vivos Score device is a technology that, as I mentioned, it's FDA cleared for both children and adults. It has the highest degree of any that we're aware of home sleep tests in terms of its comparability to a polysomnogram. Now, the polysomnograms are where you have to go to a sleep lab. You have to sleep there overnight. You get all kinds of wires and cables and cannulas up your nose and all kinds of things in order to get all the data that they require. This is a single sensor ring that's up to 98.9% comparable to a polysomnogram. That's higher than any of Itamar's WatchPat products. It's higher than anybody else on the market that we're aware of. Again, identified or cleared by the FDA for both children and adults, which makes the market for this even larger than ever before. So again, we're focused in on bringing this, and what this does, we view the Vivos Score device powered by Sleep Image as the tip of the spear for us. It allows physicians and dentists to get into communication with their patients about their sleep. Because of its form factor and because it doesn't have any consumables associated with it, the cost factor for this has been driven from about $3,000 to about $3. So per test, we're talking about a dramatic reduction in costs associated with testing people. So remember, there were two big things that were preventing people from this diagnosis. We've solved that problem with this technology. Let's go to the next one. The second is therapeutic, and is what to do with it. Well, what you're seeing on the screen here is our oral appliance that is proprietary and patented and highly effective. This is our newest version of this, which just received FDA clearance a few weeks ago, called the mmRNA. And this device actually allows for a repositioning of the tissues that comprise the human airway. And when you remove the obstructions by repositioning and redefining the tissues, you get a bigger, more patent airway. We're going to show you exactly how this works. So this is the non-surgical redevelopment of the human airway. We're going to show you right now if we go to that. So just by way of just understanding here, the metric by which sleep apnea is measured as far as its severity goes is something called the apnea hypopnea index. So the AHI, and it's effectively the number of times that a person stops breathing for at least 10 seconds in the course of an hour. So if somebody has an AHI score of 15, then they are borderline mild to moderate sleep apnea, and they have an AHI, which means 15, meaning that they've stopped breathing for at least 10 seconds 15 times during the course of that hour. And that happens on an average throughout the night. So our appliances are geared for both mild, or approved for both mild and moderate sleep apnea, but many of our doctors use them off-label for severe cases as well. And here's what our appliances do. They basically take a patient, a 30-year-old male in this case, and with a dilapidated and a small airway prone to obstruction and prone to collapse at night, and we redevelop that airway to the point where it's the one on the right. So this is a doubling effectively of the size of this particular patient's airway. It's or at least in terms of the volume that it has. So this patient started off, if we were to just draw an analogy here, starts off breathing through a drinking straw, ends up breathing through a garden hose. And the garden hose is far less prone to collapse, which means that the number of apnea events is either reduced or eliminated, or it's reduced down substantially from where it was before. We have 55, I think we're closer to 60 now, published clinical papers on this in peer-reviewed journals, and we see this all the time. Let's go to the next one. We'll just show another case. This is a 73-year-old male. One of the things about our technology is that we can handle, or we can treat, a much broader segment of the population than any other device that we're aware of. For example, Inspire's neurostimulation device only has a very narrow slice of the pie, whereas we can treat children, teens, adults. The qualifications for entry into our treatment is very, very broad. So it's not limited as it is with some of these other devices that are coming out or that already exist on the marketplace. So if you take a look at this 73-year-old male, we extracted his airway before and after, and you can see the difference in size. And this is something that dentists are able to do with proper training and the tools that we give them in our appliances. Each patient receives a customized appliance that is fitted specific for them and is designed specifically for them, and then is given to them with specific protocols that are unique to that individual. So everything is a customized series of protocols and appliance design, which yields the optimum results. And we know that because we've treated over 19,000 patients to date very successfully, average about 2/3 reduction in AHI scores, and actually in about 29% of the patients, we get a complete remediation, which means we get their AHI scores back to within normal limits, which is under 5 events per hour. So that is unprecedented out there. Nobody has been able to do that. Nobody's ever done that. We've got on the screen right here for you just a look at the landscape for what happens when a patient comes to the realization or they're diagnosed with sleep apnea. What are their treatment options? Well, if they want to stay on the left-hand side and do a non-surgical treatment option, then they're basically going to go into CPAP or some other oral appliance therapy that's not Vivos. Vivos is the only oral appliance on the market that can lay claim with research to back it up that we actually redeveloped the airway. So our appliances evoke this change over the course of between about 9 and 18 months, sometimes as long as 2 years. But they wear the appliance in the evening hours and overnight. And the more they wear it, the faster their treatment goes. And then we have some other ways of accelerating the treatment that we deploy depending on the case. But they if they are in CPAP, they have to wear the CPAP every night for life. There's no getting out of your CPAP once you get in it unless you go through Vivos therapy. So there are millions and millions of users of CPAP around the world, across certainly across North America, that would love to get out of their CPAP. They're for the most part excellent candidates for Vivos treatment. And then there's other oral appliances that are out there that are, again, palliative. They only temporarily hold the lower jaw forward. So whereas ours is a treatment where a patient goes into treatment and comes back out again, these other devices, other technologies are palliative. They only have a temporary benefit. If you go to the right-hand side of this, the 3 different major options for treatment are Inspire Medical's neurostimulation. Again, the risks of surgery, having this implanted in your chest the rest of your life, with never really being able to get a cure out of us or get to where you're actually better. It's just, you got to keep up with this and you manage your disease state throughout the rest of your life. The other 2 surgical options are rather draconian, rather painful and drastic, but rendered unnecessary for the most part for most patients because of the advent of Vivos. So we think we are coming to the market with a highly differentiated product, a highly disruptive product to a multi-billion-dollar marketplace for our devices. Insurance coverage is out there. We have almost all the major payers that pay on this across the country and in Canada. So we have an idea for our model. There's a lot of training that goes into this up front. Dentists come to us and they pay a fee for getting enrolled and starting their training journey. We train dentists to become sleep medicine's experts, and we do that with a training institute that we have here in Colorado and extensive online courses. So we have that as a revenue source for our company, as well as the recurring revenue from the cases. If you are familiar with Align Technologies and the Invisalign product, our financial model is very similar. About 80% gross margins on the products and services, and addressing the dental community. So with a margin for the dentists that are higher on our products than they are for the Invisalign products. So we have a number of recurring revenue streams, but the biggest one happens when a patient says yes to treatment in a dental office. So patients are in there, they're being examined by the hygienist. They get one of the Vivos Score rings to take home. About half of the patients that are being tested today, and we now have thousands and thousands of these tests going on every day, but we have about half of these patients that are testing positive for OSA and then entering into a patient journey that involves a corroborating diagnosis from a sleep physician. We have a nationwide network of sleep physicians that we can access to get these diagnoses. Excuse me. And then the patient is returned back to the dentist for treatment and in the therapy that is prescribed by the physician. The dentist then executes on this and delivers an oral appliance to our specifications, and so the margin on that for the dentist is about on a typical case of about $9,000. The dentist would basically net about $6,000. So in every dental practice in across North America, there's hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands, depending on the size of the practice, of these type of cases that are just sitting there waiting to be had. So lots of low-hanging fruit for the dentist, lots of participation with their colleagues in medicine. More and more, we're seeing the physicians understand the technology and gladly refer their patients over. They realize that CPAP is oftentimes abandoned, even though it's highly effective when it's used. It's highly abandoned by the patients because they just don't want it. And Vivos represents an alternative that is very, very appealing to many patients. So I mentioned earlier, we have all the coding, all the payments that we receive we get millions of dollars a year of reimbursement on behalf of patients and providers for the insurance coverage, for medical insurance. This is a medical condition with a medical solution delivered by a dentist. And that's how we present it. That's how the payers pay on it. And that's what happens there. We have built an ecosystem around these offices. We think this ecosystem is highly superior to that exists in the old paradigm that is out there for sleep and sleep disorder patients. It centers around the dental office of all things, but it's the dentists that control the oral cavity, and it's the size, shape, and function of the oral cavity which controls the size, shape, and function of the airway. We now know that. That's beyond, we don't have to really argue over that with anybody. It used to be that people didn't realize that, but now we know it. And so it's the dental office which is at the centerpiece of addressing the worldwide condition of obstructive sleep apnea. We've provided a whole assortment of software, hardware, support services, educational services, adjunct therapies to deliver the highest caliber of treatment to patients. And the result is that 97% of patients who go through our protocols and procedures report that they've achieved all the clinical goals that they had in going into treatment and are very happy with it. 98% refer their friends and family for additional treatment. So, we think we have a strong market position, strong first mover position in this market. We're accelerating the pace by which things are happening. We just completed our annual Breathing Wellness Conference last week out in Las Vegas. We had record-setting attendance and record numbers of enrollments. We had full participation for the first time from many very key and influential people in the medical community that are starting to wake up and are reaching out to their colleagues to point to Vivos as the place to go to send their patients. So we have dental and medical communities now no longer operating in silos, but talking to one another and collaborating on these cases together. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. We expect to see a lot more of that in the years and months ahead. We haven't reported obviously on Q3 yet. And so I have my Chief Financial Officer here, Brad Ammon. Brad, if you want to give them a brief summary here of just sort of what they're looking at on the financials. That'd be great.
Sure, Kirk. In the middle two columns,
I'll take mine down. Go ahead.
In the middle two columns, you can see 2019 and 2020 full year results. Revenue increased threefold from $3.8 million in 2018 to $11.4 million in 2019 to approximately $13.1 million in 2020, which is a 15% year-over-year increase. In the right two columns, you can see the 6 months ended June 30th, 2020 and 2021. Total revenue for the 6 months ended 6/30/21 increased 23% from $6.5 million to approximately $7.9 million period over period. Q2 revenue increased 37% from 3.3 million for the 3 months ended 6/30/2020 to 4.5 million for the 3 months ended 6/30/2021. The increase was primarily due to appliance product sales increases, as well as increases in our billing intelligence service revenue. Margins are in the 79% range for product and service revenue, as Kirk had mentioned before, and our cash balance as of 6/30/2021 was about $34 million.
All right, Spencer, that's our pitch.
Yeah, we got a couple questions from the chat. We don't have very much time at all, but I just wanted to address a couple of them. A lot of people asking just where they can get this treatment. Young Money asked if it's available at the VA. We have a question about does health insurance cover it? If you can address the availability here and how people.
Yeah, so we will have.
I'll just do that one.
Sorry,
Brad.
We have two computers going simultaneously here. So we have our new mmRNA that just got FDA cleared. It is awaiting the final hurdle of PDAC approval, and then it'll be available at the VA. It'll be available for all Medicare patients as well. So currently it's commercial payers that'll pay on it or private pay. We have Vivos providers in every major and most secondary cities across North America. If you go to vivoslife.com, you should be able to see a doctor locator there where our very best providers are listed out, and you can find somebody there. So we give we've got pretty broad coverage and insurance coverage across the board.
Great. Kirk Huntsman is the CEO of Vivos Therapeutics, joined by a CFO. Kirk, this was great. Chat I think was extremely interested in your product. So thanks for coming on today.
Good. Thank you so much. Appreciate Benzinga.